So I'm a traditional English leather worker, and I trained as a saddler in Walsall in the West Midlands. My grandfather was a leather gilder. He would always, give us presents that had our initials or our name in gold leaf. That was his job. I've grown up with leather. Invariably, traditional English leather comes from saddlery or military. As I trained as a saddler, then the influences show on my design. What I'm aiming for these designs is that there are as few processes as possible between the leather on my bench and its source. The leather that I love to use comes from Devon. It's the last oak bark tannery in Europe. To transform these Devon cowhides to leather, all that is used is water from the River Collie that flows beside the tannery, and oak bark from Owen Jones in the Lake District. He coppices it, it comes to the tannery, and the only other ingredient that they use, that they need, is time. It takes almost 2 years to process these hides. The leather that I use has got scars, blemishes, imperfections. It's full grain. It's the surface of the animal's skin, so the animal lived its life, in the case of the deer, a wildlife. Sometimes I would use that as a feature. And in fact, once I did make one of my messenger bags and put the scar right on the front. And it so happened that that bag was taken to the Paris fashion show and photographed by Vogue Italia. This great big scar right across the front. When I work with the oak bark tanned leather, it's a very special leather. So I want to reserve my very best techniques. They've been used, for generations and generations. The techniques of edging, thinning down the skin, or we call it skiving, edge dyeing, and not forgetting hand stitching. The belts are hand stitched, the bags are hand stitched. So they're very special. You only need to look at a Tanner Bates oak bark belt or a messenger bag just to see, wow, this is something extraordinary. We use traditional hand tools. The round knife has got to be my favourite tool. It's a great tool. The reason it's good is because you can use it to do very kind of intricate, tight curves, or if you roll it forward and push it through the leather, it gives you long, straight edges. I have a relationship with the makers. I know who makes my leather. I know him by name. I see him regularly. I know the man who makes my buckles in the foundry in Walsall, where they cast these buckles in sand. His name's Barry. That, for me, is very important. We use a beeswax preparation on the edges of the belt. And you know what? I even know the bees that provide that beeswax. The brief that I was given by the Devon Guild of Craftsmen was to create something with a sense of place. First of all, it was the decision, well, what am I going to make? And then the inspiration came, you've got to make a football. It was quite difficult to work out the pattern. There didn't seem to be any living person with experience of hand-stitching footballs that I could find. I had to work it out by looking at an old ball or picture, and then luckily the German Football Museum sent me an old football. Thinking about what leather am I going to use, the Devon oak bark tanned leather was my first choice. But then when I tried to apply that, it didn't really work. So I was looking around the workshop, and then my eyes fell upon this deerskin that was brought into me last year. It's got to be local roadkill, home tanned deerskin. It's not a particularly pleasurable experience, skinning, but I know, looking into the future, that what I can create from this rather gory experience is something to be admired.